Hey, we're back and we are talking about how to make a million in 1 year. Jess just read this book and she's applied the concepts and already she's making $1 million. And you can see it all coming down from the sky on YouTube, her background. I'm only making hot air balloons over here. And so this is part two, and Jess is going to tell us the rest of the story. The part one was we really focused on ICA in part one, and in part two is the rest of the story. So what else do we need to know about how to make $1 million in 1 year? Listen to the whole episode to talk about listen to how we're trying to apply the concepts in our own businesses, or we're going to experiment with the concepts in our own businesses. Yes. All right. What's the rest of the story, Jess, here with this book? First of all, what's the book again and the author? And then beyond ICA and knowing your ICA, what do we need to do to make $1 million in a year?
Okay. So it's called 12 Months to $1 Million by Ryan Daniel Moran. And I do believe he owns a website called capitalism.com. He's all about building, it's not just picking a product, but it's picking 4 or 5 products that you're going to make into a brand. 4 or 5 products that people would want to buy throughout the year. So that's kind of like the first idea. So the first idea is that, after you've picked your ideal customer, for him, he wanted to just sell yoga mats. So his ideal customer, he actually didn't know how to find. So he started a Facebook page called I Love Yoga. It's a random I Love Yoga Facebook page, started making Facebook ads to draw people into the Facebook page. And then he started putting, yoga blog posts, yoga memes, just resharing yoga content till he had, 400 or 500 people that were being active in this page. That was one of his goals. Is just, he needs a few hundred people to be active and actually get excited about it. And then he started talking about his product. He's like, listen, I am developing the best yoga mat on the market. And he actually asked the people on the page, like, what do you love about your yoga mat? What do you hate about it? And he made some tweaks based on what they told him about the yoga mat. And, he made like a thicker strap and he made it a little bit more cushier. And then he ordered his product, his first yoga mat, on Alibaba. And it's an app that you can download. And it's basically when you hear about people outsourcing things from China or buying things from China, they're coming from Alibaba. That's the main, it's almost like the eBay of wholesaler goods from China. You can basically get anything and you can get it made a lot cheaper than you would trying to do it yourself. And it's a process. Learning Alibaba is a process because some of the sellers are good and some of the sellers are bad, and you're taking a big gamble on your money trying to create products there. But his idea is that physical products will sell better in this format than digital. But I still thought there was a lot of things that we could take away as teacherpreneurs from the whole concept, even if we didn't want to do a physical product. So his idea was roll out the yoga mat. And then once you have your first, you need a couple goals. So goal number 1, whatever you're selling, you need to make $30 profit, whatever it is. So I was thinking for digital entrepreneurs, that's great because we set the price. We value our own products. Like we don't have to say, oh, well, this, obviously we know the difference between a $3 product and a $100 product and then something in the middle. Like, we know that we can't sell something that's maybe like 7 or 8 pages long for $30, right? But it is something we have control over. We have control over our price point. And for this method to work, you need a $30 product. That's the first step. Because if it's less than $30, you're never going to get that sort of snowball effect on your profits where you're actually building a business that's going to be profitable and that you could potentially like sell the ideas from someday, right? So $30 product, first step. Next step, you got to find a way to sell that $30 product 25 times a day. And it's easier said than done, but like you cannot build $1 million business without these numbers. With this particular model, you got to figure out, how do I sell this for 25 times a day? And so he goes over the different platforms that you could be selling something, and you could think of it like this. Maybe you're not going to sell 25 on the same platform like Facebook ads. Maybe you're not going to sell 25 through Facebook ads, but maybe you're going to sell like 5 on a podcast, 5 on a blog, 5 through an influencer, 5 through your Facebook group, 5 through some other thing that you do, right? Like there has to be a way of hyper focusing on the 25.
This sounds impossible. Okay, so if you sold 25 of a $30 product, that's making $750 a day.
Yes, and it gets
And
even better than that.
yeah,
So
he's working
after
360 days a year. Does that add up to $1 million?
Well, no, but you got to listen to this is the whole formula, is that you get your first product off the ground and you're comfortably selling 25 a day. Now, from the author's point of view, that you could probably do this in 3 or 4 months, but probably not with a full-time job. It needs to be that like you're actually working. This is not like a part-timers type of thing. This is
No.
you working 40 to 50 hours a week on this business, figuring out how you're selling those 25 a day until you get comfortably into, from word of mouth and influencers sharing you and blog posts, you get comfortably into making your 25 sales a day. After you do that for 3 or 4 months, then you should launch product number 2. And then the same goal is, okay, with product number 2, you're going to find a way to sell product number 2, which has to have something to do with product number 1. It can't be just a random product, but you got to find a way to. And the author also uses Amazon a lot for sales. And I don't know enough about Amazon like selling digitally. That's why this book is all about physical products. Apparently, Amazon is a wonderful platform to sell physical products on, but I do know a lot of people selling ebooks on Amazon, right? And they sell journals and they sell. So, and that's something maybe we can talk about in a different episode, is how do you get into the Kindle direct publishing, the KDP part of Amazon, and maybe start to make money on your lesson plans that way, or whatever you're selling to teachers, right? So Amazon's a big part of his equation. I should have probably mentioned that in the beginning. Like, it's not just one website and pumping it everywhere. It's also selling, like trying to sell your stuff on Amazon, which is possible for us, but I don't think a lot of teachers take that route. So anyway, the idea is that every 3 to 4 months, every season, you add a new $30 product. And you make the next goal of being, how do I sell 25 of these a day? Assuming your first product is continuing to sell $25, or not 25 a day at $30 price point. Once you add your 4 products in for the year, you're selling 100 of those 4 products a day. That's when you start to make millions of dollars, is because you're making 100 sales a day, but your products are all going together. So from a teacher's point of view, it is, what is something that teachers need? Like, they're going to need in this niche, whatever your niche is, something that they're going to need that's going to last them the whole year, but you're splitting that into 4 products, right? Like we hear about year-long bundles all the time as teachers. I guess this idea would be applied. What if you chop those year-long bundles up into $30 products, instead of, usually a year-long bundle is over $100, right? So it's not that shocking of an idea. I think what's hard for teachers is, since some of our products are seasonal, how do you get that 25 a day to continue and continue? I almost think you'd have to go into like different grade levels or different topics a little bit, because like, is a teacher that buys something the beginning of the year going to then buy that a new teacher going to buy it the second quarter of the year or the third quarter of the year? I don't know. That's why he recommends doing this with physical products, because physical products sell throughout the year equally. They're not necessarily seasonal except for Christmas.
Well, yeah, and I have a lot of ideas spinning in my head right now about all of this. Do you want to tell us any more about the book, or do you want to move to the phase of us applying this to our own businesses? Because I'm super excited about that. I have some ideas and I want to share them with you.
Yeah, I think this is a good time to share. I mean, I wanted to just kind of throw the idea out there of one, having products that are valued at $30, or above, right? Having $30 products, developing 4 or 5 for an entire year that you roll out once every 3 to 4 months, and getting hyper focused on trying to get that 100 sale a day um, point so you could eventually make $1 million,
Yeah.
because that is, you need to sell 100 of something a day to make that $1 million mark by the end of the year. So
Which is I love what I love about this is it really breaks down what you have to do each day, which I think can be really helpful for teacher entrepreneurs, because I think a lot of times we just get overwhelmed by all the things that we could do. And we're not, especially me, like I'm not sure where to put my energy, And so it tells you like explicitly, put your energy here. And when I did the math, I was like, wait, if I sold 25 $30 products every day for the entire year, I would have made $270,000. I'm good with that. Like,
well, and I was thinking for you, Amanda, when I was reading this, because you've always said that you really want to replace your teaching income, which is
yeah,
around 100,000 a year, right?
yeah,
So I was thinking, if you think about this, this is the formula for making $1 million. Well, divided by 10, and that's the formula for making 100,000. So instead of having to sell 100 of something a day for $1 million, you're looking at selling 10 $30 products a day, and that could really make your goals, like that could make everything that you want and more happen for you.
yeah, yeah. Well, and my mind immediately goes to Facebook ads. Does he talk about Facebook ads?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah,
those?
he just said that there's just a million different places to sell your stuff. And for him, the easiest thing, okay, so he actually does give a little formula, and it's not necessarily for Facebook ads, although he did grow a Facebook page to find those first few hundred customers. So his idea is that you need to have 10 super fans, 10 people that just love everything you do.
Mhm.
And one of those 10 people needs to be an influencer and have an audience of at least 10,000 people somewhere. It could be a podcast, it could be a Facebook page, it could be Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, or TikTok, right? They need to have a following, even bloggers, or an email list of 10,000 people. And it really doesn't even need to be a mega influencer for 10,000 people. They just need to have a platform of thousands of people, right? And then that one influencer, they tend to, if they can really brag up what you're selling, and a lot of times you just have to pay them, right? You just have to pay them money to brag up what you're selling, and they'll do it. And then the other 9 super fans are assumed to be regular people, but those regular people have friends, Facebook friends, smaller platforms, maybe a few hundred followers here and there. And those people also make a huge difference sharing your product. But you do need to find those 10 super fans, 10 people to share this product for each launch, to just kind of like get the ball rolling. So obviously you make a little bit more in the beginning than you do, like towards the end of your sales cycle. But I think one concept that he really went with is just repeating that idea of continuing to find these 10 people. And I don't know how often. He didn't really say how often he finds the 10 people, but like that's how he starts rolling, making this giant snowball effect of sales, because people's word of mouth is so much easier than buying ads and everything else. But he still uses the ads and things like podcasts to make money as well. Like, it's not just the influencers, he sees a little bit easier money coming from word of mouth and really working with a core group of 10 people that love his stuff.
So affiliate kind of marketing.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And I really love that you said that he is very transparent about, like, this is not a part-time thing or a side gig. This is, you got to do this full time if you want
Yeah.
to make this happen. What about you? Like, how are you thinking about using this book?
It
Um,
opened a whole new world for me because I've really been at a standstill with my whimsical crafty business. And I've even thought about just selling the business because it's kind of a cumbersome part of my life. Like it takes up my entire kitchen. Like I don't have a dining room. I don't have any place to eat. Like my business takes up part of my house. And the products are just, it's exhausting trying to think of them, and then people don't buy them, and I waste hundreds and hundreds of dollars making prototypes each year. And so it made me think of it on a totally different way. I started thinking of, like, at least my physical products. I was like, what could I make for teachers with my woodcrafting business, and maybe some of these concepts about buying things overseas from Alibaba. And I started developing a product line. Like, how would I make this work for me with my teacher audience? And so I am currently trying to think of, like, what would my 1 year rollout be? And I'm thinking of doing like a reading lovers subscription box, where every like 3 months teachers get a box of handcrafted goodies and accessories that are reading themed. Because what I found is that my audience, they love to read and they love books, and anytime I come out with anything about reading or books or loving reading, they gobble it up. So I really think, like, that is my sort of ideal customer right now, are teachers who love reading, teachers who love teaching reading, teachers who love books, teachers who are readers. And that's a pretty broad audience. So I'm happy with this idea, because I do think that I could expand beyond my little circle. I think that it would be easy to find other groups of readers that might want my reader lover box every season, is what I'm seeing. And that could be my four box rollout. Basically, is I'd come up with a new reading lovers box each season of the year. And I think I could match the price points, and I think I could just supplement, like, some of the things. Like, it's expensive making handcrafted products for people, but I think that I could supplement and buy some things overseas from China, and I could supplement my boxes. Essentially, almost everything you see on Amazon it's not from here. Everything on Amazon has been outsourced from China and shipped over, and then they're selling it. So there's a lot of things I've been thinking of, like accessories teachers love: lanyards, wristlets for their keys, like little wallets for their badges. There's just a lot of accessories that I can't really make myself, but I could use his ideas from Alibaba, and he does have a lot about how to find a good retailer that sells to wholesale, or a wholesaler that sells to retailers. So that's my idea.
wow, Alibaba, go Alibaba. That's pretty
Alibaba.
cool.
I hope it's called Alibaba. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, you might be saying it wrong. Oh well. That sounds intense. I don't know. I don't think I would ever go into selling physical products. It just sounds like a whole other world of stress. My sister actually has an Etsy shop, and she is so artistic, and she has her own art studio now. And she's run into the same problem of, like, she's only one artist, and she only has so much time, to like create this art. And so the stock or whatever runs out, and it's just hard to keep up,
I
I
did
guess.
think of how I would do it on TPT too. Did
Oh
you want
yeah.
that?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I wrote a whole plan. It's in my phone. Hold on. No, I wrote a plan. I was like, you know what? How would I do this on TPT? Because I love this idea of, I have two businesses. I have one making physical products, and then I have one where I make Teachers Pay Teachers products. And honestly, I make a lot more money on my Teachers Pay Teachers store. It's just a little bit more fun making physical products, because, it's a lot easier to share something. Like, I just made this yesterday. It's a little sign that says, I'll just wait until it's quiet.
Oh,
And it's
that's
like the
cute.
teacher's like it's a It's like a little coaster, like a little key holder, and the teacher is dead.
Oh my
Right? It's
gosh,
like
I
a
love that.
skeleton, right? And so I just made,
Yes.
like, literally took me like 2 minutes to make it, right? And so I was like, it's more fun to show this kind of stuff than be like, oh, look at this piece of paper I made. Ooh, so
Yeah.
it's hard for me to think about Teachers Pay Teachers in the same way, even though I make a lot more money on Teachers Pay Teachers. Anyway, I developed what would a library teacher need for their first year teaching library? And I developed like a whole product line, but I think a lot of it is they're going to be, I developed 7 units of study. But I don't think I'm going to be selling each of the 7 units for $30. Like, I think there's just no way. I think on TPT it has to be a smaller price point, probably. But I think that once I get the 7 modules made, I'm going to bundle them into a $30 product. And then that could be like my first $30 product. And then I just have to think of like the next $30 product. But I've already scaled out my first $30 product. And it's probably even a little undervalued. I probably sell this for $35 or $40, but it is 7 units that would cover all of the American Library Association's library standards. So you'd buy this unit and then you would have lessons every single week with books embedded in the lessons, like books that I'm taking from like the authors, pages and stuff. I'm not like reading the books myself, or like on YouTube links, right? But they'd have like books, book study, and you'd be covering like what are the books you need to read to teach people how to make inquiry units, or what are the books you need to read for curation. That's a huge library standard, right? Like what is a curation? How do you teach that to kids? And what are the books you need to read to them for them to understand curation? So anyway, I got it all planned out. I started making it too. But making, like I said, it's, like making a physical product to sell for $30. It's a little easier for me to think about than like I think of a $30 TPT unit as being so much time and work and energy. But once you make it, I never have to make it again, right? Like I make it once and I have to update it every year or two, but like I could just leave it. Whereas like my reading boxes, I'm going to have to make each one of those. That's a lot of labor. It's a lot of work. So I do know that logically, investing into my library TPT product is smarter than doing the boxes. I just think the boxes are going to be way easier to sell, I guess. And maybe that's like a mental shift that I need to make in my head, right? So that's what I've been doing. I've been working on both at the same time, which is obviously not a good way to make $1 million.
Well, I also think that Teachers Pay Teachers is tough because selling a $30 product on there is actually quite challenging, because all of my products were $30 on Teachers Pay Teachers, pretty much, because they were so huge. And I put a lot of time into them, and I feel like they're worth more than $30. But I know Teachers Pay Teachers, people who go on there aren't looking to spend $30. And if they are, they want to get a lot of different products and like a whole cart full of products. So yeah, since joining YDP, I've actually, a lot of the YDP suggestions for my store were decrease price. And even the other day, I was searching SEO keywords for argumentative writing units. And it's really sad because my unit is on the second page of search on Teachers Pay Teachers, and all the other units before me are so much cheaper. And they have way more reviews. Like the top 2 units. I mean, one of them was only $7 and mine's 30. Like, who the heck is going to buy mine over a $7 unit, you know? And that seller doesn't even say how many pages are in theirs, which is kind of weird. But anyways, and yeah, so it's just hard, like the competition, because I think a lot of Teachers Pay Teachers products are very, very underpriced for a reason, because teachers don't want to spend their own cash. Um, So I don't know if this idea can apply to Teachers Pay Teachers. I'm going to be totally honest.
I think it could for content, certain kinds of content. I think it
Yeah.
can. I think
Well,
it
I
can.
think
But
that's
like, look
how
at mine.
people.
Mine is like a whole year product. So then now I'm thinking, okay, well, this is a whole year of like, these books that people could read. So what would they actually need next? Because that's what the author says. Think about once you sell your first $30 product, what would come after that to the same buyer? What would they then need? And I think some of the problem is on Teachers Pay Teachers is that, like you said, $30 does cover you for the whole year a lot of times. So then thinking of like what they need next, I was almost thinking, what else are they teaching? Because not like most people don't just teach one topic or one subject. It's almost like coming out with the next thing they could be and then just keeping growing like that. But I do agree that the concept is hard on TPT, but what it did kind of open my eyes to is like, I should always be asking what comes next. So like, say I was making this inquiry unit of study, I wasn't necessarily thinking what comes after this unit. I don't always do that when I'm building something. I just want to make it. I just want to make it and get it out in the world. And then I never ask myself, what should come next for my buyer? That is something the book taught me, is like, we should always be asking, like, what is the next logical purchase for this person?
Well, and
Even if we
also
don't exactly
email,
know.
I think it's email marketing too, because a lot of times we don't think about selling to people who already bought from us. But who's more likely to buy from us? People who already bought from us. And
Yeah.
so like emailing customers who actually purchase. And actually, I just had my website redone by Wesley. We had an episode about Wesley. And one of the things he brought up was like, what's your email marketing strategy when someone buys from your WooCommerce store? Like, how are you getting reviews? How are you getting them to make the next purchase? And I was like, I'm not. They buy something from my website and then it's like, bye, and that's a problem. But I'm not beating myself up about it because it's occurred to me recently, not recently, I've always known this, but like the reason that I haven't had the success that I want is because I've actually never worked on this full time. You know what I mean? Like I've always had about 100 gazillion other things going on in my life. And it's always been, I will find time when I can. And so like anyone who's listening right now and has like a full-time teaching job or has some other thing going on right now in their lives, like trying to like make $1 million in a year or even $100,000 in a year as like a side hustle is just unrealistic. And like, it's mean to like do to yourself, to like make a goal like that for yourself, unless you feel like it's like, you're capable of it.
Well, I look at some of my buddies who are making more than their teaching salary and they're full-time teachers. They just, it's all about that chasing one rabbit at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are spending their waking hours before school, they're spending their weekend time, they're spending after dinner time working on their businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they make it happen. And I do have a lot of friends that have made, they're making over 100,000 a year and they're full-time teachers. It is possible, but they did need to give up 2, 3, 4 years of time with their family and friends to do it. And I've never been able to make that commitment, right? I've never been able to prioritize the business over like the relationship with my husband or friends or family. I've never had the willpower to do it. It's just like, I don't know, it's just not who I am. And it's something that does kind of bother me. It's one reason I like Shelly Reese's courses, because she does talk about just like, hey, if you only have 15 or 20 minutes a day, then this is something you could do, right? Like she talks about that all the time. Like, hey, if you have 15 or 20 minutes a day to focus on your business, those 15 or 20 minutes are going to snowball. You are going to see, instead of just scrapping it all together and saying, I have no time to work on this, find the 15 or 20 minutes in the morning, find 15 or 20 minutes at night, set a timer and get to work. And I've always really loved her for that, for being so practical with how people's real lives are, who aren't just like business creative genius monsters basically. Because I do know a lot of people like that. Like, oh, so many of my friends, they're just they're making a lot of money.
No,
And
and I know who you're talking about, and
yeah,
I have those friends too, and
yeah,
it's amazing and it's exciting,
yeah.
you know, because it's like this is possible, you know, and I tell my husband that all the time, like, you know, that like if I was able to do this full time, you know, and I didn't have all these other commitments and other things going on, like I could potentially in the next few years like make enough money for you to like not have to work anymore. And he's like, okay, well that's cool, but like that's not, I'm not, you know, like expecting
Most
that.
people, most people are just not, they just don't want to give up the free time for a few years. And it seems to me like all my buddies really had to give up. They had to become obsessed with their business,
Mhm.
but not just for spurts like me and you probably do. Like I become
Yeah, just like
obsessed.
us.
I become obsessed for like 3 weeks. I'm like around the clock. I'm making things for 3 weeks, and then I don't even look at them for a year, right? And I'm like, oh
Yeah.
well, I worked for 3 weeks, and it's amazing how much money I've made from these spurts. Like if I look at my total TPT income from the spurts of energy I've had over the last 7 years, it's like wow. Like I mean, I actually have made a lot of money from these short-term spurts, but not never enough to quit my job. Like I would need to have a year-long spurt to quit my job. And it's just like I keep looking for that motivation and that energy and that dedication and drive. And it's really a lot of self-discipline for me personally, because obviously my relationships are the most important thing in my life. Without relationships, you don't have anything, right? Like you need relationships in your life. So, and a lot of people that I know that have done this, the relationships are really, really, really solid. Like they're very, like, I mean, it just strikes me as like they just seem like really, really stable people. Like
Mhm.
that never have a lot of problems. Like they didn't grow up with some of the issues that I grew up with. And so I try to forgive myself for not being superheroes like they are, because I did not have an advantage. I did not grow up with wealthy parents or in a good, even a middle class situation. I grew up very, very poor. I was a Pell Grant kid. When I went to college, my mom was making 12,000 a year and that was it. And my dad wasn't making anything. So like I grew up in poverty. And a lot of the people I know that have this drive and dedication, they were given an upper hand. You know, their parents bought them their first car and it lasted like 10 years. I bought my first car, it lasted 3 weeks. You know, like a lot of people are given these opportunities, and like not everybody has the same level of mental capacity either. And I think we've talked about this a lot. Like sometimes there's things preventing us, you know, going on from doing everything that we want to do. Like,
Brain
you know,
chemical. Yeah, no.
chemicals. And
Yeah.
not everybody has that. You know, not everybody has some of the problems that, you know, that you might be facing. But I think it's so important to just know that even 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever you can give, it is going to make a difference, especially in digital products, because once you make something and put it out in the world, you can sell it forever. So that's just something that I try to hold on to as I watch all of my friends become millionaires.
Yeah.
So many of them have become millionaires, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just it's something like that. I make myself feel better thinking like, you know what, it's not about burning myself out in a year or two. It's about really focusing on what I can do each day and trying to do that. Like, do I have 20 minutes today to work on my business? I think I can get 20 minutes out at some point. It might be leaving my husband alone in the living room to watch TV by himself, but I can do 20 minutes of something, you know? And I've been thinking more and more, how can I kind of work on my business a little bit and still communicate to friends and family and still do things? And I think some of it is like when I'm watching a movie with my husband, I think that maybe like during the first 30 minutes of the movie, I could be maybe doing something on my laptop.
No, no, don't
I
do
think sometimes I could be. I think sometimes if I've already seen the movie. A lot of times I'm just watching mindless TV. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing something mindlessly, which I think is good, but could I give up a little tiny chunk? Like I go overboard on the mindless activities. I have a lot of free time. So like, could I give up a little bit of that free time? You know what I mean? Like I said, carving 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, just something, it's almost like when you're trying to start to work out, like, can you just go on a 20-minute walk? Is it going to kill you? Like, that's how I need to start thinking about my business. I think, especially Teachers Pay Teachers, to be a little more successful. Like, can I find 20 minutes and just dedicate it to the business and not get sidetracked, not get
Well,
distracted?
yeah. And like Teachers Pay Teachers, I mean, these people you're talking about, they made their money on Teachers Pay Teachers, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I have a lot of friends that make their teaching income. They're still teachers, but yeah, they make whatever they make teaching, they make that or more on TPT. Like, theoretically, they could quit their jobs. A lot of them are staying in it because either they found a dream job that they really love, or they're in it for the retirement, like the retirement benefits. It wouldn't be smart to walk away from them at this point, or healthcare benefits. Like, that we underestimate how much teachers get in healthcare, even though we complain about it endlessly. It's hard being an entrepreneur, paying for your own healthcare, so some of them stay on it for that, but
Well, and
they
I'm just saying that because I'm trying to listen to your voice, your advice and hear it. And there was part of me that was rejecting it because I was like, what? I spend hours on my business a day, like I don't need to like spend 20 minutes a day. Like I spend hours, but what am I actually doing? Am I working on Teachers Pay Teachers? No, I'm not working on teachers. And so that occurred to me, I was like, wait a minute, she's talking about Teachers Pay Teachers. I need to sit down and make sure that I do Teachers Pay Teachers specifically for 20 minutes a day, because you're right. All of the money I make on Teachers Pay Teachers, and it's not nothing. I mean, we both make, monthly income through Teachers Pay Teachers. I mean, it varies, like it does for everyone. But like for me, I mean, I'm going to be totally honest. Like, I think the most I've ever made in a month on Teachers Pay Teachers was like, I don't know, 2000 or something in a month. And, I'd love to make a lot more because that's like not enough. Like that doesn't replace my teaching income. And my husband even was like, Amanda, you got to work on Teachers Pay Teachers. And that's the thing that I'm like so resistant to. I don't know why. It's
Me
just,
too.
it's like, I don't know why that is, but because I'm just like, there's an easier way. There's an easier way. But if you just are consistent with Teachers Pay Teachers and like consistently, putting out high quality products and updating old products and like tweaking the different, your covers and your prices and your previews and making sure you have really high quality previews. Yeah, it's just all kind of boring. You know what I
It
mean?
is, but if you
I
look
like
at, I mean,
interesting and exciting,
if you look at how much, like, go back to your graph and just look at like what has Teachers Pay Teachers made you since day one, and
Yeah,
then think about how much work you put into it since day one. For me,
not much.
it really, like, I can't believe what little work I've done for how much money I've made.
Yeah,
And like I said, I've gone through different years where I've been like, the first few months on Teachers Pay Teachers, that's all I did, right? My
yeah.
first 3 or 4
Me
months,
too.
just I cranked out like 90
It was
products in 3 months,
exciting.
right?
Yeah.
Just like crazy amount of products. And but like the amount of work as a total of my life hasn't been that much, but the amount of money I made has been more than I could ever imagine. Like, and why don't I spend like hour per hour? I make like hundreds of dollars on Teachers Pay Teachers, right? Like if I look up a product and I'll track how long a product takes me to make. I have a product, took me an hour and a half to make it. I documented it and I've made like $6,000 on it. Like how do you make $6,000 in an hour in the real world? You cannot make $6,000 an hour in the real world unless you have like millions of followers or you're like a Kardashian, right? Like it's really, really hard making $6,000 an hour, but I did it. I mean, yeah, that's compounded over years. That's like 7 years, right? But like, why am I such a dum dum? Why am I not making TPT products all day long? If I spent 3 days a week doing an hour-long project and then, I keep making those, that money is going to snowball. eventually. You know what I mean? Like it's going to snowball in the future. And that's what it's done for a lot of my buddies. They work every single day on it. But I think Shelly Reese's advice is just so golden. Just carve out 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes at night, something specific to making a product or making a product better, like making your snippets better on Teachers Pay Teachers. And you're going to see like huge results.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's leave it there. I have to go take my puppy on a walk.
I got to go take my husband on a walk. He's
We
getting
should we should definitely do like maybe like a revisit this topic in a year to see if
it's yeah, like maybe we can both like make something of this. And I love this idea of selling a $30 product and just trying to get 25 sales a day, or just having a sales goal on a product every day. I've never really had that before. I've
yeah,
never said, oh, I want to sell 5 of these each
yeah.
day. And I'm going to keep trying and trying and trying until I do. I do think that would be good for us to have a little
I'm gonna
challenge like that.
Well, I'm gonna try Facebook ads, and I'm also gonna do the 20 minutes a day on just Teachers Pay Teachers products.
See if you can do it. I mean, I feel like 20 minutes a day is a small sacrifice.
It is. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay. We're
All
gonna
right. Have fun with your puppy.
Wait, are we really leaving? Wait, let me just